Okay, I think we're live. So let's wait a couple seconds for the links to be shared, and then we can welcome everybody to episode two, season two of Pitch the World. Let's see if we are live on social media, because that's all that matters in this day and age. Okay, good. Excellent. All right, so we're on social media. For those of you tuning in, my name is Adam Kemper. I'm one of the hosts of Pitch the World. I was one of the hosts for all of last season, and I know this season we're going to have a few different hosts. If you didn't catch the first episode, I was actually doing a lot of talking, which this episode I'm going to allow our guests to do some more talking. But on the first episode, I was talking through some of the COVID-19 related business initiatives, some of the reactions from companies, and some of the issues that companies have been experiencing. The last episode was 2 weeks ago, and I was still one of the remaining few in my office. And now I'm at home joining the rest of you, and I have a hat on my head because I haven't been able to get a haircut. Unfortunately, barbers are not considered essential businesses, which is one of the issues we spoke about last week. But today we're going to transition into something that I think is equally important, if not more important, to not only people in business, to not only employees, but to everyday anybody, basically. And that's the issue of mental health. For those of you who have been around pretty much anywhere, because this is a global issue, this COVID-19, we've all sort of been experiencing this together, and we've all had our ups and downs and our struggles through this. And now if you're in the United States, in most of the country is on a stay-at-home order or on lockdown of some degree. Most businesses are forced to shut down, and people are inevitably under quarantine, whether they want to or not. And with that, that sort of disrupts our whole lives. That takes us out of our normal routines. It really just throws everything off. So I can tell you personally, I've seen a lot of people not only struggle with business, but mentally through this tough episode. So I thought it'd be perfect to bring back Dr. Lisa Lovelace, who was a guest in our season last year, to come back and talk to us about some of the mental health issues maybe she's been seeing among people, and provide us with some guidance to help us get through this. So Dr. Lisa Lovelace, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Adam, it's good to be here. Very strange time to be here, but I'm happy to assist in any can. This is a new environment for everybody, and there's things we can do to support each other. So I'm glad you're focusing on this.
Yeah, and Dr. Lisa, for those of you who didn't tune in last year, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a clinical psychologist, and I own a online therapy practice called Synergy E-Therapy. And we've always been online. So before all of this, where everybody is now online for any business, we were providing therapy by phone and video, the comfort of your home or your office, because a lot of people couldn't access mental health care wherever maybe they were in a rural area or they were just working or traveling. And so we provided therapy that way. And we are in now 14 states where we have clinicians.
Congratulations.
Yep, and we are growing, obviously, and we provide mental health care. There's 10 providers, and we have a medication prescriber as well. And we partner with other medication prescribers in different states. So we are busy, if you can imagine.
I can imagine.
And really doing our part as healthcare providers. We are considered essential. What's great about our job is that we can do it remotely. So we can be in our homes and our clients can be in their homes, or if we work with healthcare providers or truck drivers or teachers, we can be wherever they are so that they can get their mental health care needs kind of on their time instead of on ours.
So, Lisa, we're in 2020 now. Last time we brought you on was 2019. Do you think now we're beginning to see, sort of a removal from the stigmas associated with mental health and, some of the issues that it not being a serious mental or not being a serious health condition and some of the comments like that we still see? Are we seeing less of that now, or is it still the same? Would you say?
I would say that every month, every year, the stigma around mental health is going down. More and more people, like celebrities or people that have a social platform, are really getting out there saying, hey, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have bipolar disorder, I have a substance use disorder, and I'm getting help, and there's treatment, and there's support. And I think that has been growing exponentially throughout the years. But now with the entire global pandemic and governors and people talking about telehealth, it's becoming more common for people to realize, wow, mental health is a part of physical wellness. It's a part of emotional wellness. And it's starting to be more of the household name, I think. Mental health, getting your mental health checked, looking at PTSD. What's happening for a lot of people right now is very traumatic, including a lot of frontline workers. So I think that in particular is getting out there in the news a lot more, that the governors are asking in different states, perhaps, we have mental health providers. There's a lot of mental health online providers now. Everybody is online pretty much. And so I think online and telemental health is being more common. And then the stigma is definitely, I'm going to assume, especially after this, be a lot lower.
Yeah, I mean, this is forcing people, this isolation, this quarantine, this pandemic. It's forcing people to, sort of look within and start to become more aware of their own feelings and their own emotions, because we're sort of forced into isolation, and that's sort of an inevitable result of that. So is that sort of what's creating the spike with more mental health patients that you've had?
Yeah. I think there's a multitude of things. Obviously, just the traumatic impact of more and more people getting sick, people that we know who are being lost to this virus. I think that the healthcare workers are really needing our support, and people that are on the front lines, police and whatnot. And I think, yeah, you have a great point, is that we have been forced to basically stop. And we're not great at that here in the United States. We are doers. We are going. We are moving from hockey game to, football games, to academics, to church, to
Social events.
synagogue, social events. We don't really do great as a society of just relaxing and calming down. And so I think now that for people who are healthy and they are at home and they maybe, have other stressors, of course, with maybe losing jobs or things like that, that's not easy. But let's say you still have your job and you're just now at home, and your kids, if you have any, are at home and doing homeschool if they're in grades or higher. College kids are back at home. So you have everybody under the same roof now, kind of together, and you have to how to tolerate each other, how to work together, and how to have new routines. And it does make everybody kind of stop, and you don't have those distractions, and you don't have outlets either. So it does make you re-examine how you deal with stress. And if we look at what's happening, the routines that we had, our routines keep us safe. We know what to expect even though there's little things that happen. It's really the same routine every day. It's kids are expecting certain things to happen. Adults are expecting certain routines to happen. And that keeps us feeling mentally stable. Even if we have depression, anxiety, right? We have our routine. We know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And I think now we're getting more into it. And so initially you might have seen the anxiety really high. I know for me it was. And then now for people, you're like, okay, we're in week 3, we're in week 4. And you kind of are like, well, when really is this going to get back to normal? What does normal even mean now?
Right.
And I think now there's a lot more of what we see coming in clinically, the anxiety, but also now kind of this like really sad, scared, more of a depression.
Mhm.
As people are like, I don't even know what to think.
Right.
And so it does create a whole new world, especially for people who might not have been needing to pay attention to their mental health, or they felt like they were kind of coasting okay. Now it's just like thrown on us that we need to really pay attention because our body is going to react. We're going to get irritable. We're going to snap at people we love. We're going to cry for no reason watching a commercial, or we're going to feel like we're so pent up, or we need to that aggressive energy out. So our bodies are probably the first that's going to alert us that something with our mental wellness needs to be looked at.
Right. Right.
That was a really long answer.
No, that was great. I mean, definitely, we're all here to hear from you. So we appreciate that. And I know for many people, social interaction is that outlet to de-stress, to decompress, to, get away from the everyday troubles of work life and whatever. And, going to the gym, for example, going to a bar, going to a social event, going to a birthday party, that occupies time and it de-stresses in many situations. For certain people, it adds stress.
Yeah.
But now we don't have those as outlets. So what are
Right.
for people to do? I mean, are they to just find new ways at home to cope with this, different ways?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a big problem. We are very used to having social connections and going out of our house whenever we want to. We now have no freedom. We have choice in some ways that we're used to. And we don't have the same outlets in the social connection. So we have to get very creative here with what we have. So there's a lot of acceptance that has to happen, whether you believe in the virus or not, whether you're Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. We're all kind of in this together, and we need to really use what we have at disposal to be creative in finding kind of this new normal. So acceptance is number one, of like, this is what's happening. So at week 1, week 2, or I don't know how long this will last. It'll go a couple weeks and then we'll be over it. Now we're seeing something that we're going to be in for a while in some way, shape, or form. So we have to get creative once we accept this is what's happening to, well, now what is our new routine? How do I stay sane as I'm working and homeschooling? Everybody's home and now we can't go the kids, swimming pool, where we would normally, and they're going to get pent up and kind of antsy too, right? And they have little emotions that are very big. So we have to manage, especially as parents and people that are working, managing so many elements all at once. So we need to really get creative and start to implement new schedules and new routines. With that, feels kind of like a free-for-all, and you don't really know what to expect. Not great at that. We're very, creature, right? So we need to start, I think, number one is to really set a great schedule for yourself, for your kids, for your family, so that you have certain times of the day or certain routines that you follow loosely, or strict, whatever works for you and your family. But having something to look forward to with it, just then what happens? Like, what are we doing? It can feel very unstable. So I think that's the first thing. Get creative.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we're however many weeks into this, it's taken away the notion that this is going to be over soon or this is going to be quick. I think we've all acknowledged now that this is not going away anytime soon, and this is to some degree the new normal. So the question is, how do we adapt, and how do we stay mentally sane while adapting? Right.
And
That's
that's a good word,
question.
adapt. Yeah, that's a great word. We are resilient. We do adapt. This is what we do when we're faced with situations that are out of our control. We figure out how we can kind of get back in our control, and we adapt. What choice do we have, right? We have to follow the guidelines to keep ourselves safe, our family safe, and our community safe. We don't overwhelm the hospitals. That's really the biggest thing right now. And so when we're here, when we're doing this, when we know this is our new normal and we have to adapt, what do we do? And it's hard if you're really anxious, right? It's hard if you're really sad and depressed, and getting out of bed alone feels like a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have to kind of acknowledge where we're at in our mental wellness and or our mental illness, depending on what we had coming into this, right? So we don't want to fall back into old patterns that might not have been healthy for people who maybe, are struggling with alcohol or drugs. Now you're just at home, right? And so are you going to start using more? You have to really be mindful of that. For other people, how long are you going without showering, right? Have to look at that like, been in my pajamas for how many, I
Right.
did just shower before but it's like a day or two. What was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Paying attention to mental hygiene, physical hygiene, making sure that we're actually getting out of our jammies, making
Mm-hmm.
sure that we're getting outside and smelling the fresh air. I mean, people in Minnesota, it snowed today. It was
Right.
bizarre. Like 66 last week. Now it's, or a few days ago, now it's snowing and now it's sunny. So it's like, I don't think the world knows what's going on. So we have to get outside. We have to, really pay attention to what we really do enjoy. And when's the last time we did that? When's the last time, maybe you really loved playing music? When's the last time you picked up the guitar? Maybe for some people who aren't, now, or they're at home or, with the kids, like you could create a new game or clean out, an area where the kids were playing with toys when they were younger, that you find. And for people who are still working, it's still a lot at home. So maybe at nighttime, you're going to take a bath or you're going to take a shower or go work out or go for a run. And it not be the same time or the same way that you're used to, but you're still doing something to stay mentally well so we don't fall into negative patterns.
The part that is sort of sticking in my head that like resonates the most is acceptance of this, accepting that this is the new normal, and then just going with it. You know what I mean? Because for a lot of people, I think a lot of the anxiety may have been built on this is not real. This is going to be over soon. This is not how it is. No, it is. This is it, and you have to accept that. And I think once people really accept that this is it, that'll help so many people. And just, okay, now that this is what it is, how can we make the best out of it? Right? How can we
Pretty much.
stick to
Yeah.
routines? How can we create the schedules? I think those are all wonderful points. And how can we all stay healthy during this? And I thought another really great point that you mentioned is sort of being consciously aware of how you're acting and how you're reacting to certain things. Because a lot of us, even when we were at the old normal, I think we all sort of struggle as human beings, being aware of our emotions and our reactions to things. And now, because our lives have been disrupted through this, it's even more of a time to sort of become more aware of your emotions.
There's a lot of great free resources out there, especially for healthcare workers. I was able to put my NPI number, which is, as healthcare workers, we all have one, and get, I think it was one of the apps, and I don't remember which one it was because I have so many downloaded, but it was one of the calm or meditation apps, Headspace, I think it might have been. And like we get like 6 months free. And there's a lot of free apps out there that help you learn how to kind of lower your anxiety, lower that fight or flight response, lower your blood pressure, your breathing, to really start to kind of kick in that parasympathetic nervous system. That deep breathing calms us down, right? So there's a lot of truth to that. So it's like, well, we've got the time. Maybe not everybody has the time, but even if you can find a few minutes on a lunch break or when you go to the bathroom or when you're taking a shower at night, really try to find that moment for yourself to just put on one of the apps, kind of watch the breathing and just follow it along. You don't have to think too much about how to do it, and be able to find that calm so you can start to be aware of what does it feel? Where do you feel it in your body? How much do you feel? I'm always asking my clients this, kind of where are we today? On a 1, where you're feeling real chill, real good, or 10, where we're like, we missed it somehow. We're kind of backtracking from a panic attack or from a really bad depression.
Right.
So being aware of kind of where you feel it in your body, how you feel it, and how intense is it. So we can understand what's going on, then we can try to catch it and prevent it from getting worse. So if you notice starting to get shaky, or your stomach is in knots, or your jaw is really tense, or you're starting to get irritable, it's like, what number are you? Are you 5? Are you an 8? And then how do we learn to catch that so we can kind of stop it a little bit and go, okay, I need a break. I need to go outside. The kids need to just do whatever, or work. I need to take a break, whatever it is, and just bring yourself back down, re-engaged, because it's just going to be like that. We just need to be aware, do something about it, because we have a lot in our control, and then keep going.
Right, right, right. You know, I always thought synergy therapy was ahead of its time, because this is a technology that everybody is using now in terms of the video chats and the video conferencing, because we're told to socially distance and on isolation.
Mm-hmm.
But how important is it for people to talk through, not only become aware of what they're experiencing, but
Mm-hmm.
through what they're experiencing, to get it off their chest and not bury it inside?
It's very important, even for introverted people, right? This is always, well, I don't like to talk. I don't like to share my feelings. Okay. And we still are social beings, and we're pack animals, and we still need love and support and attention, and hugs, if you can get them from an animal, even at home, right? Even if you're alone at home, a virtual hug is great too. It's not the same. It doesn't release the same, endorphins and things, but it's great to stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
And we do better when we feel validated.
Right.
You know the difference when you're like, somebody says, oh, don't worry about it, or oh, get over it, or whatever. We're like, no, like, I just want somebody to understand what I feel and to be here with me. And that's where us as a company and lots of other therapists and support out there, really providing this as an option now with telehealth, to be able to be heard, and also to learn skills and understand yourself in a way that, hopefully, we can provide, that nobody else is going to provide in a similar way as a psychologist or therapist, because we're looking at somebody very differently. We're putting a lot of puzzles together, putting things back onto you to really gain your own insights. So
Mm-hmm.
using technology is a great way to stay connected to your family, but also for therapy. We have a lot of people that are, I don't know about this e-therapy thing or the virtual therapy. I love the in-person kind of energy. But it's like, you can see us here doing exactly what I do several hours a day with our clients. You can get the same impact, same outcome, that you can from in-person therapy.
100%. 100%. So we've been getting a few questions, and one of them popped up from my mom, so I have to answer it, or you have to answer it.
Hi, Auntie Lee.
Her question is, does the social isolation affect some people more than others? And I guess she's asking introverts v extroverts, or the elderly versus the young, or is this just everybody's affected, but maybe they're handling it in different ways?
I think that's a great question. I would love to know if somebody out there is doing research. And if not, if you're a researcher, and I might have to tap into my U of M researchers because I used to work there. I wonder if somebody's doing some sort of a study on this, and I don't know. I would venture a guess that it has a lot to do with probably how you were before kind of quarantine or the isolation. So I know for my sweet husband, he's like totally fine. He doesn't even know anything's going on. He's always worked from home. He's a homebody. He's social, but he's really more introverted than anything. So he's like not really impacted. And in fact, he's like, this is great. For some of my other friends who are like never at home, they're always going or running or doing. And this is like, oh, I'm going to pull my hair out. This is horrible. They're learning, of course. And so I think it does have a lot to do with how you were beforehand and who you were as a personality and where you get your energy. So a lot of people get their energy from engaging in person with people, and they're not getting that. And it's going to feel very strange and very depleted and kind of like bummed out. Like I'm not getting that feedback that they need to get in person. And I still say, call your friends, call your family, do Zoom calls with groups of people, do what you can to stay connected. It's not the same, but you're still engaging and having conversation, with people that you love, your clients or whoever that you might miss, your coworkers even. So I think do what you can with this to stay connected. Use technology for good and what it's for now. But yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think it's just kind of multi-layered with the answer. And I think what is going to happen too is a lot of people that really needed that extroversion or that social engagement, now that they're going to be kind of this way for a while, it's going to be interesting to see, like, are you learning more about yourself? Like, are you okay on your own, quote unquote, where you're not needing that or not? I think we're just going to learn more about ourselves. And then how do we fill that part of ourselves up?
Yeah.
Or not, right? Or do we need to? So I think that's a great question, and everyone's going to be very individual in how they handle it and what they do to either solve for it or learn something new.
The fact of the matter is, there's not a precedent for this, right? In law, I'm constantly advising companies, based on precedent and case law and statutes that exist. So I can say, well, this is how it was handled before. This is what the law says on this. With this situation, you're advising clients in your space against the scenario that hasn't happened before, at least in our lifetimes. So I can imagine that's also been a challenge for you.
Yes. I mean, I'm in Facebook groups with thousands of therapists all over the globe, and we are doing our best as healthcare workers to be present and there for our clients, while we are also in it exactly the same way. Maybe not exactly the same way. I don't mean to say it like that, but we're all in this together, right? So we are trying to manage our own lives, our own jobs, our own families, while helping other people do the same thing. So usually in a therapeutic situation, somebody comes in and they have their own unique thing happening, whether it's, a divorce or whether it's, the children left home and they're trying to manage, sometimes we can relate on a personal level. But a lot of the times, it's very much like we can be very present in a way where it's not about us. Now it's like we're all doing this. So as present way of engage, or I really now separate more from before. Like kind of getting into a zone of like, okay, this is somebody else's life. This is what I'm here to help them with. It's, I'm different. It's not the same, but we're all kind of experiencing together. Really novel for therapists and medical professionals and, people that are out there working all day. Everybody's tired. Everybody's exhausted. And I think I've been telling people, and people have been telling me, is we need to allow ourselves a little bit of grace here. We have to be gentle on ourselves as therapists. Like, wow, that was a crappy session, or my kid just came in the room, or, whatever, like, oh, why wasn't I good enough, right? There's a reason. Is because we are exhausted. We are stressed. This is a global thing that we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of fear. And I think just kind of saying, you know what, I did the best I can. I did the best I could, and I'm doing the best I can. See, even there, I don't know. Grammar goes out the window. So we're just doing everything we can do to stay afloat, to do our jobs well, to be present for our family members. And it's not all be perfect. It wasn't
Yeah,
perfect before quarantine, and it's certainly to be now. But you
that's
know
right.
what? Just being there for each other and talking about mental wellness and letting people know that, there's providers here waiting and ready to help support them through this, because we're all in it together.
Great, all wonderful points. There have been a couple of questions that have come in, and I'll try and combine them relating to kids. As adults, we don't know what the heck we're doing with this. I mean, we're adjusting as best we can. But kids who are so used to routine, all they've known since they've come into the world is routines. And, if they go to school and they see their friends, that's a routine. They see their teachers. They're missing out on school right now because Zoom school, for many it's working, for many it's not working, unfortunately. It's an experiment because this hasn't happened before. But as parents, that's an additional thing that we want to make sure our kids are okay. So, any thoughts out there for how to sort of manage this with kids right now, because they don't know what the heck is going on either. You know.
They don't. They know something is going on. They know the coronavirus can talk. They know the word,
I'm not talking about the 17-year-old that's on the couch. I'm talking like young kids. Yeah.
Right. The younger kids, right, it's going to be a lot more confusing because they're not understanding the way the world works, and why aren't we seeing our friends? Why aren't we seeing our grandparents? Why aren't we going to the mall, to the gym, to anywhere? And I think depending on age and depending on their developmental level and whatnot, there's a lot of great resources out there, again, that can help you talk to kids about what is happening if yet, or if you feel like I need to keep revisiting it. But even though the kids are starting to get their new routine, right? Because we all put those nice routines in place at some point, or if you haven't yet, just grab something that works and write it down. Have the kids be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
That, right now, this is what our life is like. And what is the good things about this?
Yes.
We get to be at home as a family. We don't have to wake up super early, perhaps, right? Or we can be creative in the home, or I'm with mom and dad, or mom and mom, or grandparents, or whoever, a lot more than I normally would be. And I guarantee you, there was something going around Facebook, and it was about kids looking back on this when they were like 30. And all they're going to remember is like, we had dinner and breakfast and lunch together every day. And, even kids that are still in daycare, their routines might not be disrupted. They might not know the difference. For healthcare workers, kids that are in daycare, they're going to maybe know that mom or dad or whomever isn't at home as much, or maybe they're, a little more stressed out. But we're talking kind of a subset of people that aren't, their routine has been disrupted, right? And everybody's at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just focus on that for a second, being able to every few days, every week at least, and I say this to my 5-year-old, what questions do you have for me today about the coronavirus or about where we're at? And the other
That's
day
great.
he's like, can you get it just by touching somebody? Because they hear and they listen, and you get your groceries and you wipe things down, everyone's wearing gloves. It's like, what is going on? Like, it's a fine line between making them super anxious to do anything once this kind of blows over. We're going to have a new reintegration into society, right? People are going to be very anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And telling as basic information as possible, and keeping it very simple at their age to understand. This is a virus. A lot of people around the whole world have it. Nobody's in school right now. Most people are working from home, right? And that's how we can become superheroes and help other people in our community, just by staying home, just by washing our hands, just by learning good hygiene. And it's helping them to see the power in what they're doing. Look at how cool this is that we're all home together. So, I mean, is it cool as a virus that's really impacting the world? No, that people are losing jobs, people are, dying. This is hard. But 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, they might listen, they might. I want, families to focus on the positive things for them right now, and balance with how they're helping kind of in their community by staying.
Yeah, and I mean for kids, I mean they pick up so much from their parents, and the biggest thing is their parents' energy and the parents' emotion and how they're feeling and how they're handling it. So I mean, I think it's so important that as hard as this is for us, we do what we can to stay present for our kids and point out the positive. I think that's a very valuable piece of advice. Is to
Mhm.
point out the positives to our kids through this and keep the routines going because they need that.
Yeah, I mean that's all we can do is keeping them in a routine, even loosely, that they know kind of first, second throughout the day what they're going to do, where and how. Getting them outside, just like we need to get outside when the weather's nice, and even when it's not that nice, they're going to need that fresh air, and that environment kind of feedback. That's really good for our own anxieties for them to run around. Kids aren't used to not being able to climb and jump and run. And depending on your family and your kiddos and how it goes, I mean, you might need to figure out what couch they can jump on or where they can climb and run
Right.
if you're here in like the Midwest when it's still cold all the time. We have to figure out how to get that energy out. Just a few minutes ago, a few hours ago, my little one was laying on the ground and I throw a throw pillow at his legs and he would kick it back up to me. And we did that for like 20 minutes. It's exercise, and then he'd roll to get the pillow and roll and throw it back. And, you're just creating new things to get our energy out because we're used to being pent up and closed in. We're used to being able to run and do things. And so we just need to get creative with that and have them be a part of it and have them, enjoy this time. My guess is the younger ones are just going to remember being at home a lot and how fun that was to be with everybody and not have to stress about going from here to there to everywhere.
Well, that I imagine is going to be easier for some parents versus others
Yes.
because, I kind of want to switch gears. We've had historic unemployment filings, 25 million, the most that's ever been filed in the last few weeks. So we're going to have, if not a recession, something very close to it. And
Yeah.
everybody wants to look back at 2008 and say, well, this is just like then, but it's really not. Um, you know, we're going to have unemployment galore, and the government is trying to help. They're doing their part. They have several stimulus plans, and we kind of talked through some of them in the last episode. And I know Pitch Investors Live has produced a publication for anyone
Mm,
who has any need for that information about how to go about applying for loans and things like that. But
that's great.
a lot of these parents, they're losing their jobs.
Hmm.
A lot of people in general, they're losing their jobs. And a lot of businesses, they're shutting down by government order because they just can't make any money under this situation. So that sort of compounds the problem here and the difficulty for these people. I don't know that there's like a right or wrong way to help these people through this, but it's definitely a challenge for them. And it's
Hmm.
something that, there's not for a lot of these people a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's the biggest challenge. It's like, when's this going to end? When am I going to get back to work? Do you have anything to say to these people? Have you talked to some of these people that maybe have experienced
Hmm.
job loss or have been furloughed as a term that's being used, even though I'm not a fan of it, or have maybe gotten a pay cut? For a lot of people, that's very difficult.
Yeah. And that's a great point because there's just as many people out there that are like, well, I'm not going to be very calm scheduled because we are now at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now it's not so much like love and self-actualization and people are learning new skills and whatever, right? It's back down here to safety and security and you're feeling threatened. So I think number one, with people who are experiencing their lives perhaps go in a 180, they were going along, making ends meet, maybe enough. And now jobs are being lost. People are, like you said, getting furloughed. Businesses are closing down, and people don't know when the government money is coming. How is it coming? Who gets it? Who doesn't? I mean, that's still very confusing. And is it going to be enough, right?
Right.
How long do you get it for? I think there's a lot of questions about that. I think that when we are that basic of our needs and Maslow's hierarchy, right? When we're really in that spot, focusing on safety and security is the utmost importance.
Mhm.
So, there are food banks out there and shelters out there. And, right now I'm hopeful that with mortgages and things like that, like people can stay in their homes and heat can stay on, or, however that's working. But when we are able to focus on the basic things of food, shelter, clothing, like I think that then all of this stuff that we're maybe talking about with like mentalness, that's still mental wellness. How am I going to feed my family tonight? And I think that for a lot of people, there's shame in it. Even though the whole world is going through this and millions of people are losing their jobs, there's still that, what did I do, right? Why can't I still have a job? How did I, get to this situation when my neighbor over here seems to be doing fine? So there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of fear. There's a
Mhm.
lot of that self-doubt, and we got to be careful that doesn't kind of internalize that there's something wrong or bad or something you did, right, to have this happen.
Mhm.
And being careful that doesn't go inward and then anxiety and depression, hit or get worse. So I think what we can do is focus on those basic needs and reach out for support. I have seen so many things online for people that are, from people making masks and donating them to people, donating food to helping your neighbor and asking family, friends, coworkers, reaching out to your state and seeing what they have going on to be able to help support you to keep yourself and your family afloat and have shelter and have food. So I think that it's just, let's just focus on what is going to keep you safe and alive, right?
Mhm.
So that you don't feel like, well, I've got to now go do whatever that's not going to be safe for me and my family if it's, getting back out into the workforce in a different way. How do you do that that's in a safe way? That makes sense for you and your family. So I think that when we're talking about that, it's okay that you are going to be focusing on some of those basic things and knowing that it's not your fault. I think that's super important to not have that shame that comes with it, and knowing that again, this won't always be like this. And when you need to, rely
Mhm.
on people that you trust and that um, that are in your life to help you. And it'll come back in spades, right? We all are helping each other through it.
And that's been one of the bright positives out of this difficulty is that you are
Mm-hmm.
seeing in many situations people coming together in a community and helping each other and trying to support each other and just doing what we can, sharing this information with the world right now. I mean, this is tremendously helpful for so many people, and I think that that's what we have to kind of take away from this is that there's a lot of darkness going on right now, but there's also a lot of light that is being done from this, and we have to take the good from this as best we can, because if we continue to just focus on all the negatives, we're going to drive ourselves crazy. We're going to put ourselves in depression. It can get very unhealthy. So as best we can, focus on the Maslow foundational elements. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. and then and then just take pull the positives and help people too. Like one thing that I've always learned for myself is that you always feel better when you're helping people. Like if you start feeling down about something but you figure out a way to help somebody, like that, to me it just makes you feel so much better. So I think this has been a great resource to share information and help people and make me feel better, make the guests feel better as well because they're able to help people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Volunteering, doing what you can. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be with money. You know, I think just, kids going around or adults going around and at the corner with chalk, just saying like, you are loved, we're here for you or something. I mean, somebody's walking, their dog or taking a bike ride or something. They're going to see that. And it says somebody's thinking about you. You're not alone. And if anything, the entire world, for once, right? Well, not for once. We've been in other things that are not great, obviously, but for, like this has been a long time, where everybody is really in it, and we have technology to stay connected. Imagine if we didn't have cell phones and technology, and
Yeah.
back when I was born, right, in 1970, whatever. It's like we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have, like this, and so life would be very different. Being connected would feel very different.
Well, you were doing this profession in 2008. I know you didn't have the Synergy e-therapy at that time, and that was sort of at least the brink of the last recession. Do you recall sort of the sentiment of your patients, and are a lot of the experiences that we're going through now similar, or are they different? I mean, do you recall that time frame, 2008 to, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
2010, or even 2007 to 2010?
Mm-hmm.
Having
Yeah,
3 years, I was in law
yeah,
school.
you're gonna make me think, but I was actually, I was in New York, and I lived there for 6 years, and I was managing a substance abuse program for teens, and so I think that I was probably working, Upper West Side of Manhattan. We were working more with inner city kids, and a lot of children and families. Um, and I think that, recession or not, it felt kind of the same in New York City there, with what we were seeing. But families in general, when they're going through struggle, whatever that is, struggle in their neighborhood, violence in their neighborhood, to global pandemic, to, it's like, well, we could talk about lots of different things that are very traumatic and very difficult for, different kinds of families. But in New York City at that time, for my experience, it was very much the same, of like the struggles. If I were working now, like with Synergy, is, more adults coming in all throughout the country in different, demographics all over the place. So for me, that would be probably very similar, is like, this is still very traumatic. And there's a lot going on where people are going to come out of this, not realizing that what they're experiencing is potentially trauma.
Mm-hmm. Well, trauma.
And there's a lot of people in their homes too. Sorry to interrupt you. That, I'm thinking a lot about the kids and families I worked with, and there's no outlet. They're not going to school where they have a safe place, or they're getting meals, or, they're maybe at home now where there might be more violence if people are, frustrated or depressed or anxious or losing their jobs or different things. Like, violence can happen a lot faster in a home. And now what the problem is we're not going to see it as much as we would if they go to school or go to sports, or they have other outlets or other people they can talk to. So that to me would be a big thing to think about, is people that are in homes that, might have been violent before or might be violent now, and we're not going to be able to see what's going on in the homes as we were. That's a totally different direction, but my brain just went to the
You
left.
touched on so many things. I mean, you've seen, there's been spikes in like domestic violence because people are at home more, and they're sort of forced to be together, even though, and then they can't go to the court system as easily as they'd like to get separation, because the court systems aren't running as typical. So there's a lot of issues through this, and we could talk for hours about all the various nuances that pop up from this. Another question is relating to PTSD, because this is something that could create trauma for somebody. How do we help avoid the possibility of PTSD from this?
That's a great question, and I'm so glad somebody asked that. It's super important, going back to your statement before of processing and talking. What we know from lots of different traumas that have happened, you always see, like, therapists are in the school right now, right? First responders are on the scene right now. Therapy dogs are right there, in the whatever that trauma situation is. The reason that that's happening is because we want the brain to work through what is happening in as real time as possible. so that it doesn't kind of get stuck and locked in and just spins, right? So our brain is very interesting and complicated in how it processes certain types of information, especially emotional information. And if we can talk about it, if we can process it, if we can get therapy for it, or talk to a friend about it, if they can help handle whatever you're feeling, or a spouse or something, being able to have that kind of processing and talking in as much real time as possible is going to be a preventative measure. That's why I'm kind of every now and then asking, my kids or my, kids that I work with, or, what questions do you have? How are you doing? What are you thinking about? Tell me. Because we hold a lot in. And then even when someone says, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Everybody's fine. He's okay. Everyone's yeah, I'm either sad or scared, but I'm okay. But if we can talk further about it and really get that expression out, processing is really key. And then just sensory wise, being able to find calm in the chaos instead of staying up here elevated in an anxiety response. We have to bring it down. We have to find calm. Otherwise, your body is now going to say, in this whole time, I need to be up here feeling anxious and ready and prepared to fight or run away. And that's not good for our body and our physiology and the whole thing, right? With medical issues too. Sleep and eating and everything gets kind of screwed up if we're just too much up here. So we need to pay attention to our body, and we need to process. And so I think those two things, if we can do that, it's going to help prevent a PTSD diagnosis in 3 months, 6 months, whatnot. Now, that might, that goes true for healthcare workers, first responders too, that are seeing a ton that we can't even fathom what they're going through. If they can get the resources and the help they need, after their shift, before their shift, in the middle of it, there's a lot of resources out there for free to low cost mental health treatment right now too. A lot of websites popping up, getting tons of therapists that a lot of my providers are a part of for cheap to low cost, to no cost. So if we can try to help more people know about these resources, we're here and we'll help you process that. But even if you don't do therapy or not, doing it on your own, just paying attention and helping your family members talk through it is going to be.
So you may have frozen for a second, but okay, I think.
Okay.
So where can people find information about Synergy eTherapy and possibly the demographics that you can service through, or you or the other therapists through the company?
Yep. So synergyetherapy.com is our website, and it shows all the states that we're in. We're in 14, and we're kind of splattered all over the place, from California to Florida to New York to Maine to Illinois to Minnesota to Iowa, Wisconsin, South Carolina, blah, blah, blah. We have a lot of them. We cover the entire state. So if you're physically located in one of those states right now, we can see you. Some of our states, we take insurance like Cigna and Blue Cross. Others, we are private payer out of network, but we offer what's called a super bill. You can submit that to your insurance. What's great right now is insurance has to, they don't have to, but many of them are really getting on board with covering telehealth, telemental health.
As they should.
As they should. And I'm hopeful after this pandemic ends, is the entire landscape of telemental health will be very different, especially with insurance companies. And it's very easy. You can just fill out, a contact form, or you can choose your state and choose which therapist you think would be a good fit for you. Most of our therapists have videos and bios you can watch and read. And you fill out a form. We offer a free consult to everybody. So it lets you know if this is going to be a good fit, and you can ask any questions you want. And so we're happy to, just send us an email, info@synergyetherapy.com. Go to the website, follow us on social media. We're always trying to post things and do things just organically to help our community too.
We really appreciate that. Are there any final words of wisdom that you have for the Pitch Investors Live and Pitch the World community, or anybody who's tuning into this broadcast? Final words.
Thank you, number one, for focusing on mental wellness. The more businesses and the more business people that can focus on the mental health aspect of things, the better we're all going to be in our job, in our family, in our life. So just know that we are here. There's lots of other types of support out there and other types of free online yogas and different things that might be fun for you. Just stay focused on what is working for you and what isn't, and figure out what you need to do from there. And if you need support, ask for it. That's the biggest thing. So thank you for focusing.
Thank you so much. Everybody, I encourage you to check out www.synergyetherapy.com. You can connect with Dr. Lisa through us if you'd like. We wish everybody stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Dr. Lisa.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.